What's up, guys and gals? This is Griever back here, bringing you guys the latest behind-the-bar reviews for 7 Deadly Sins, Chapter 328 review. Let's get into this chapter because, this chapter. Ladies and gentlemen, I might have been disappointed and gone on a 50-minute rant where I repeated myself multiple times about the same damn points in the side story guiding thing, but this chapter, I love this chapter. I don't have a problem with this chapter. You know why I don't have a problem with this chapter? Because nothing that is done to the Demon King, we do not know the full extent of the power of this new form, the one ultimate, which every panel, Escanor, I didn't even realize, from the cover page on, he keeps looking more and more like a boss. Like, Endeavor with your flame on style is step aside. This is what a man with flame powers looks like. Like, this is just, I like this. I like this. And this chapter, as I said, had no issues as far as I could tell, or any that I had an issue with the attacks, the dialogue, and the art was beautiful. Seeing every single time, as I said, every single panel, Escanor seemed to look better. Every page, he looked cooler. He looked better. So I love this chapter. I think this is the best chapter I've had in a while, and I really enjoyed this because right off the bat, the cover page was stellar. Because Nakaba never uses cover pages well anyways. At least this time he drew some good art. Usually he goes with that, just random little chibi form sitting in a tree like Zeldris with, Gelda in the background and friggin', somebody chasing, Gilthunder and, Hauser or something, chasing birds or something, all in this little, chibi style form, as though he was drawing for DeviantArt. He does that kind of stuff all the time for cover pages, and it's kind of boring. This time, this was good. We see Escanor just standing there, flame on, this new form called the One Ultimate, or the Ultimate One, and I'm like, okay, I kind of like the Legendary One, or something better, and while a lot of people were taking to the term the Two, but I like this. This is okay. The Ultimate One, or the One Ultimate, that works. That works. It's a little cheesy. It's a little shonen, but this is a shonen. So, what are you going to do? No, I really enjoyed this. And then the cover page just with the title, "This Sun Will Never, Die Out," sort of idea. And I'm like, okay, all right. Nakaba, you don't use that cover page. You never have utilized it well, but here we get something good. Then after this is where things, I feel, cover page on, it's just so good. Escanor, of course, is just, everyone's like, wait, they're baffled, because at the end of the last chapter, or, well, not the guide chapter, but at the end of the official last chapter, we saw Demon King, punch in, and he can't pull his punch out, literally punched Escanor in the abs, and Escanor's like, abs for days. Abs for days? Abs for days. And he flexes. He literally, you know what they've been terming that now? I'm an old geezer, I guess. So I don't know what the new people terminology, but flexing is what it's called when somebody does something just cool or badass, when they do something just over the top and it's badass. My day it was called a badass move. Now it's called flexing, especially in anime and manga and stuff. So he not only flexes on him with, what you gonna do? He literally flexed. He literally flexes his abs so that the Demon King can't take his fist out of Escanor's abs. A literal flex, and then a figurative flex where the Demon King decides to punch up, and Escanor's just like, yeah. And just a barrage of fists flying, smacking that Demon King down into where he belongs. Get that goth makeup off of his face. Escanor's a fan of the Crow, and he thinks you've done him dirty, Demon King. So he wailing on his ass. And I'm just like, okay, this is good. This is cool. I like this. The little bit of dialogue we get in between this is that So they acknowledge the fact that I think it's Deanne says, how is Escanor outside the one form? Like, how the minute has passed, how is he still there? In that utilizing it. And Elizabeth and Meliodas says that's not. I think what he means to say is that's not just the power of sunshine, because it's still sunshine. It's still the one. It's the one ultimate. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But what I think he meant to say was that's not just sunshine anymore. Escanor has started to use his own life force and converted it into magical power. We've seen that done in Dragon Ball Z with Ki, so I'm not surprised that it's done here. I can't really remember a time, but I'm sure there's a time where you can use you can go above and beyond with your magical power in Taizai. I can't really recall one, but yeah. So he actually did it. He's converted his life. And this is something that a lot of us assume, that Escanor was literally going to start using his life force. And another thing is that he got far stronger from that Gaiden chapter. Now, we actually know for a fact that what a lot of us thought was correct. It was one of my main staples, one of my main theories after talking with a lot of people, a lot of fans on YouTube and on Discord, where it's simply that Escanor didn't master his power, he didn't control his power, and over the decades, he's actually been able to hone his power, hone his skills, and get far, far stronger. And that, I can accept that reasoning. It's been decades. He probably every day at high noon fought with Meliodas every single day, that kind of stuff. So that's good too. We got a little bit of answer about that, little bit of a shocker from the guide. But we're not quite there yet. So basically, Meliodas just states that he's converted his life force. And as I said, I think the translation's a little wonky, but I think what he meant to say is he's now using his life force, converting it to magical power to fuel the one and sunshine even up. This is to go even further beyond! So something to that effect, right? So I like to sit there and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. That's pretty cool. He's using his life force to, convert. I'm okay with that explanation rather than just saying it's in the moment of time that Escanor fully needed it. He finally has evolved to the perfect version of the one that Mile could use, the original, what it was intended to be, the literal invincible incarnation of power. I wouldn't have liked that because that would have been too coincidental. The timing's too great. The timing's too perfect. I don't mind the fact that he's literally there is one key problem with this chapter, but we'll get that at the very end of the chapter. There is one key problem. But yeah, so Meliodas says that. As I said, then he just keeps wailing on the Demon King's ass. Deanne stating the obvious is, well, wait a minute now. If he does that, he'll die. We have to stop him. Like, Deanne, just because you did that one mother creation thing and the art was good does not make up for any of your dialogue in this entire series, like, at all. Ever. Just no. Deanne should not talk. Deanne is a waste of text bubbles that could answer us questions and explain stuff. We do not need that. All her text bubbles from now on can be her blocking and go, ugh, and stuff like that. I'd be okay with that. So, after this, we see that the Demon King does get one other shot off on Escanor's chin, and Escanor's like, yeah? The ultimate one. Boom! And knocks him like he was flexing his abs to keep him there, I'm assuming, because then he lets him go. There's a little blood there. He don't care. He just knocks his ass like, boom! Just straight across the field. And it's just like, all right, cool. I'm good with this. Now, after this portion is where the Demon King actually gets up and he's like, okay, it's like, enough of this farce, be gone. And he launches a huge, ball of a contorted thing of darkness at Escanor. And this is where we see Meliodas actually step into the fray, and he uses Counter Vanish. I don't remember Counter Vanish. It might have been an ability we've seen before, but I don't remember when he ever actually used this Counter Vanish ability. So, I could be totally mistaken though, guys. So, I'm just not remembering it, and I'm sorry for that. I didn't really have time to reread and check through or anything like that. So, Counter Vanish still, I can accept its premise. It's pretty cool, Counter Vanish, rather than full counter and that kind of stuff. Why can't you use Counter Vanish here? I don't know, but he does. And then we see also King and Bond step into the fray. Bond with Vanish and Kill, and King with some crazy knife thing. It's translated two different ways. It's kind of weird. Like it's fight fire with fire ability or something like that. This is where Escanor gets pissed because he's just like, what is the meaning of this? And I was like, okay, yeah. He goes, what is the meaning of this? I told all of you I did not require any of your help. And he's just like, all right. So he's starting to step forward, and boom. Then he stops, and we see this big wide span thing with Meliodas just standing there in front of him, just being like, I could ask you the same question. What do you think you're doing, you stupid bastard? And I'm like, okay, Meliodas is pissed. Meliodas is pissed at this whole, he's going to drain his life force and sacrifice his life in this battle. And this is where Escanor basically stands over him. And once again, the art is stellar here. And the emotions are running high for me here because I like this. I like this because this is their confrontation where he just says, get out of the way. Because Escanor is doing this all for them. This isn't for him. This is for them. And he's taking the burden onto himself. So nobody else has to get hurt. Nobody else has to die. We'll get into why that's a little bit of an issue here later. But he just says, like, yeah, no. Get out of the way. And Meliodas basically looks down at the ground and just says, you want me out of the way, force me out of the way, if you can. Escanor just kind of stands there, this kind of stuff. The flame's still burning bright. And this is where Meliodas says, what do you think you're doing right now? I didn't tell you or ask you to join the 7 deadly sins so you could go and pull a stupid stunt like this. And I'm like, okay, Meliodas has a bit of a point. Like, the whole idea is that the 7 deadly sins were brought together to help fight, not necessarily the Demon King. They were just meant to fight the 10 Commandments, but technically they are, so whatever. But they were there as a counterbalance to be a fighting force able to take on the 10 Commandments, and now we're seeing that Escanor is taking it one step too far. Sacrificing his friends' lives was never a part or planned part of the deal as far as Meliodas is concerned. So he thinks he's just taking this too far. There's no need for him to be sacrificing his life like this. And we'll get into that at the very end of the chapter. It keeps it from being a 10 out of 10, but it's still a 9 out of 10 chapter. Now from here on, this is where I think this is some of the best that actually made me feel something. For a very long time, 7 Deadly Sins. It's been a while. Maybe not since chapter 317 have I felt like, damn, this is a good moment. And maybe it's because it's my favorite character of Escanor. I mean, maybe it goes to Bond, but honestly, it's always a toss-up between those two. But Escanor, right now, we're shining on him, and I think the one thing that drags Bond down for me is that he's into lollies, but whatever. But Escanor here just has a comeback to all this, right? Because Meliodas just told him, I didn't let you and invite you to join my team for you to go and sacrifice yourself for us. That wasn't ever part of the plan, sort of idea. And this is where Escanor basically says, looks down at him and kind of says, do you know, do you even comprehend back in the day when I first was still berserking wildly and stuff? Basically, this is why they imparted the Gaiden chapter on us last week. Because he's basically saying, do you remember when I had no control over my power, where I didn't even want this life, that I was just berserking wildly all the time with no measure of control over myself? And what did you do? And here is where we learned. This is where we learned exactly what happened. And I brought it up earlier, but this is an okay explanation as to why Escanor got far more powerful. And I can even accept the reasoning that we never knew about this information until the Gaiden chapter, is that once again, he is a prideful guy. Even here in his dying words basically to Meliodas as a friend, he still has some pride in him. So it makes sense from his character standpoint. We wouldn't have known about this before. That Gaiden might have been useful earlier on in the series, but I digress. Simply says, do you remember what happened? You beat me into submission. And we saw that. But not just once. He said time and time and time and time and time again. You continued to the point that I was at a complete loss for words. And as you did that for me, over and over and over again, and I slowly started to be able to learn how to control and master my power. As he said, I like as impudent as it was with that tiny little body of yours, you managed to, get me to start to learn how to control this power, how to hone it properly, and how to master it. So once again, this makes sense from how Escanor in the 1 could fight with Assault Mode Meliodas, and win against him in the current storyline versus when he first was berserking and had no real control over the 1. It could barely be called the 1 as a comparison by now. He was just a rampaging beast with no sense of control and stuff, right? So that, to me, I can accept that explanation. It's been done in multiple mangas and animes before, and people don't bitch about it there, so I'm not going to bitch about it here. Was the delivery of this bad? Sure, complain about that, but this explanation and how Escanor, over the next few decades, after literally training, and we can assume from this, because he says time, and time, and time, and time again. You don't think after that first bout, he's just like, yeah, you're fine at high noon, we won't let you, you can go berserk for, I'm tired, I'm up night drinking. No, Meliodas probably spent, from what it sounds like, you can assume this might have been years even. But at the very least, it was a long number of weeks to months at the least, and I think it was probably years, that he continued at every single day to beat Escanor into submission, to teach him not to teach him humility or anything. He already did that, and to teach him that his life still holds value, and it's not just his life anymore that he has to live for, but to learn how to hone his power. So this makes I'm perfectly good with this explanation, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are about this down in the comment section down below. But I, for one, am 100% behind this. This is good, makes sense to me, and the other half here is coming, and then he just basically says, and then not only that, after learning how to honing and master my power, I also, someone who was lost in the depths of loneliness and solitude, you gave me a place that I could belong. And we're seeing constant reactions from the other sins here. Merlin never says anything, by the way. She has some shocked and sad expressions, but she never actually says anything. But Gother does. Gother does here, because then we get to the next page. Meliodas looks a little shocked that Escanor, especially in his pride form, remember, would talk to Meliodas like this. Even though he's got those little digs, like, as audacious as it might be, as impotent as it might have become, that kind of stuff. And he just says, do you have any idea what type of happiness that brought me? That you gave me a place to belong? And I'm like, see, that to me, coming from this Escanor, the OP, the broken, the prideful man himself, this dialogue holds weight to me. It means something. And I really like it. I hope Nakaba actually has the balls to kill him. I really do. I hope he does. Because if he goes out like this, nobody will tell me Escanor didn't go out like a boss. Because this is okay. This is good. There's still a little problem with that. We'll get to that. But yeah, I was just like, yeah, Gother, of course, because Gother knows what this feels like. And Gother acknowledges as well. He says, I know this all too well, Escanor. And I'm like, and the expressions on Escanor's face in this ultimate flaming version of himself, just being like he's almost consoling Meliodas, like, look, you did your job already. Your job for me, for helping and fixing me, has been done, and now it's my turn to repay it, And then that's basically what he does. And he jumps off as the Demon King gets back up. He jumps off, and he just goes, and I won't have this anymore. Like, I swore that I would, that is why it is my turn to help you guys. And Miller's like, Escanor, wait. And he just jumps across, and he's like, fists high, ready to go. He's just like, I swore to myself that the life that I one day tried to abandon, and we did see that at the end of the guidance, so this is okay, that I would one day, that I would stake it always for you, my friends, the 7 deadly sins. And I'm like, it's not a friendship power boost. It's just a friendship statement. So that's why I think the dialogue is okay. You can call it a little cheesy, but at the end of the day, that's what he's doing it for. Because Escanor, who does Escanor have? He's got the 7 deadly sins. He's got 6 people that don't treat him like a monster. And they never treated him like a monster. That's all he's got. So coming from him, this is a valid dialogue. I like it. I'm good with it. You know, it's a little cheesy, I'll grant you that, but with all that stellar dialogue we had in the conversation between Meliodas and Escanor, I thought that was great dialogue. I thought it worked. It flowed nicely. It made me go, oh, like right here. I get you, Escanor. I'm good. I get you. And then he jumps across, and we get a reaction shot from everyone, like everyone looking down, Deanne crying, like everyone looking a little like even King and stuff, like hanging their heads, like we can't. Meliodas, same idea, like they're like almost like fists gripping because they're like, we can't argue with that conviction. We can't argue with his reasoning there. He feels indebted and stuff. He's doing what a true friend would do. He's sacrificing his life to save ours. To say to stop anymore would almost be disrespectful. That's not said, but that's what I believe, because everybody turned, nobody tells them not to fight anymore sort of idea. They just all of a sudden blitz, assault mode Meliodas. We haven't seen that in a long time. Assault mode Meliodas, boom, comes in, bang, he fights this crazy black sperm mantis looking thing that the Demon King summoned. And he just goes, and Escanor's like, what are you doing? And he just goes, well, if you are going to put your life on the line for us, it's only fair that we also put our lives on the line for you. Bond comes up, exactly. Deanne's like, yeah, and everyone's like, boom. It's like, oh, and then Escanor is just like he just chooses not to fight it anymore. It's just like, okay. So then Meliodas is like, all right, everyone just basically attack. We see a cruel sun. We see Merlin do some exterminate raids. We see Meliodas about to do some crazy slash. Bond with something crazy with his nunchucks. Just, King, Deanne, everyone, Gother with, the twin bow, his legendary treasure. And I'm just like, okay, it's a cool shot. It's a cool panel. And just Demon King forgetting about the ruler, apparently completely, in this entire battle. Like, we could have made the argument that, oh, Mother Creation's a magical spell, but the boulders are physical, so that's why they can hit him, and all this stuff. And that's the reason he used Counter Vanish, so that, because if he bounced the magic back, it would be... It's like, no, the Demon King just doesn't have the ruler anymore, guys. I guess, I don't know, because he just gets bombarded and beaten with this attack. And I mean, just damn, this chapter is really good, and I want to make sure I don't miss anything, so I'm going to do a quick cut here. No, I didn't miss anything. I just wanted to make absolutely sure, guys. So here at the very end of the chapter, we get the after they just bombard the Demon King, and of course the Demon King been a disappointment since chapter 300 till now. So why is anybody surprised? Once again, if you're looking for someone who's going to rant about, as I said, I've said this many times, guys, but I need to, as a weekly chapter reviewer, I need to be able to look at all the good points and bad points of the chapter. I mean, yes, are they still relevant points if it's something that's been going on in each chapter and it bleeds into each chapter, floods into it? Of course it is. But there is no point in spending 5 minutes of every chapter complaining about the power scaling of the Demon King. There is just no point to that. If you want that, you're probably going to have to find another reviewer, because it's been talked about to death. We all know the Demon King's a disappointment by now. We all know that the power scaling is screwed up. There's just no reason to talk about it anymore. So, that being said, last part here, we have Escanor. And he basically says every sin's name. We see a reaction shot, Merlin, Bond, Deanne, Gother, all that stuff. And he says, and Captain, I am so, it's too late for me to back out of this now. However, I'm giving you all one last, direct order. And then we see a really nice shot here at the last page of the chapter where Escanor is looking down. Look, it's still like a boss. This form is so good. And it just, the art style, and as I said, throughout this chapter, every single time we see Escanor, he looks even more manly. He looks more, and he's standing there, and we see an image, like a mental image of the other Escanor, the nighttime Escanor, also basically saying, you think he's going to say in order, I will allow you to fight alongside me, but he says, please do me the honor of allowing me to fight alongside you one more time. It's and see, it's that merge, because we see him smiling, prideful one smiling. We see the nighttime form smiling in a mental image and stuff. And even the text basically says both me and I, sort of idea, right? So they finally, It's almost like this is Escanor finally come full circle. He's accepted both halves of himself. He's not just prideful. He can have that friendship and that humility and all that stuff within this form, you know. He's channeling both sides of himself. He's no longer a black-white. There's this merging, it seems, right here. And it's, you know, it's really nice to see. I really like it. We see Meliodas' assault mode, like wipe away tears sort of idea, because he knows like his friend's life is forfeit now. But he says, absolutely right. Meliodas smiles too, and he says, we're friends right to the bitter end. And I'm like, you know what? This to me was still powerful, guys. The dialogue here made it for me. I saw the Raws yesterday, and I was really hyped to get the dialogue, because I thought they really can't screw this up. They still could have, Nakaba could have screwed this up, but they didn't. It was really stellar, really good. I really enjoyed it. Break next week, however, and it's going to be, Chapter 329 is going to be Demon King versus Eldritch, so we're going to jump away from this fight. I don't know what's really going to go down. I assume we're going to jump into seeing Gelda and Eldritch basically hanging by their entrails, that kind of stuff, or entrails, whatever. And it's going to be pretty gruesome, but we're going to have to wait and see. That's not going to be next week, so that's going to be the week after. I'll try to bring some type of 7 Deadly Sins content to you guys next week, of course. Now, the one thing that stops this from being a 10 out of 10 chapter, not a 9 out of 10, not a 9 out of 10, is not because of the power scaling, because the ultimate one, for all we know, is more powerful than any character we have ever seen in this story, period. Right? There's no way to actually gauge his power. All we know is he's kicking ass right now. So, I mean, say what you want about the previous chapters and all the fights with the Demon King. For all we know, this Escanor in this form is the most powerful character we have seen. We don't know any better for right now. So, you know, I mean, that's a bit of a leap of faith, but it can't technically be argued either. So I'm not worried about that. Once again, power scaling and Demon King, not really an issue of this chapter. Dialogue, not an issue. The one thing that's an issue is that Escanor did not need to do this. Is it epic? Yes. Is it boss-like? Yes. Is it a flex? Yes. And did I really enjoy it? Absolutely. But it's not necessary. All they needed to do was somehow incapacitate Meliodas, or keep Meliodas in the dream world or the mind world, and have the Demon King ready to kill everyone. And this is where Escanor goes into this form, goes into the ultimate form. Then Meliodas wakes up. Here's how you could have done it, and it would have made sense. Escanor knows he's got no choice. He can't let everybody die. Goes into this form. Then Meliodas does wake up, does the counter vanish, and basically they still have their epic dialogue. And then Escanor's like, I can't turn it off now. I'm already burning through my life force. Stopping it now won't make a difference. The sacrifice, that's what drops it down by 1 point, because the sacrifice feels needless when you have characters like, and we've seen that he can be affected by boulders flying at him, for God's sakes. So Meliodas, not even he might be in assault mode now, but we've seen that not just Escanor, but all the Sins' combined power is tanking this Demon King, and they're not even trying to kill him. They're trying to weaken him to the point that Zeldris can fight the mental battle. They're trying to stall him. So Escanor sacrificing his life here is not necessary, and that's my problem. All they needed to do was keep Meliodas incapacitated while Escanor had to be the one to step in. You know, then it would have been much more powerful, much more effective, and I would have given this chapter a 10 out of 10 perfect chapter. But that one thing is holding me back, and that is a problem, not with the arc, that's a problem with this encounter, this bunch of chapters, this one chapter. This is an issue, that he's sacrificing his life in this way. So, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, what did you think of that point? What do you think of the chapter? What do you think of the rating? What do you think of the review? What do you think of everything as a whole? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Please like, subscribe, comment. As always, ladies and gentlemen, it's always very much appreciated. Don't forget to hit that bell notification so you guys know every single time I drop a video, whether it's a gaming video, a review, or something else in between. That being said, guys, this is Ben Griever with your Behind the Bar reviews for 7 Deadly Sins, Chapter 328, the best chapter I have seen. You know what? Yes, since chapter 300, the best chapter I have seen since chapter 300. So for sure, I can't remember a chapter that I liked more than this in such a long time. Probably even before chapter 300, because the feels were there, the emotion was there, and I think it was better than 317, which right now, off the top of my head, is the only contender that I thought was good. So, yeah, this has been Griever, ladies and gentlemen. As always, drink responsibly, as I always do, and we'll see you next time.